Hello, everybody. It's Friday, and you know what that means.
Front Office Friday!
Let's go. Front Office Friday here on the NBA Front Office Show. Going live a little bit later than usual, but nonetheless, we are kicking off the weekend with some NBA basketball talk. Welcome in those of you joining live over on the YouTube channel. If you haven't done so yet, hit that like button. Let's get this video out to as many people as we can. Podcast listeners, great way to help out the show. Just give us that 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts, or give us that rating over on Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. I'm Trevor Lane. Joining me is Keith Smith. Keith, I'm ready for a weekend, man. I'm ready for a weekend and ready for even more NBA in-season tournament action next week.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird. The schedule's weird, right? Let's call it what it is. Starting this weekend, no NBA games on Sunday. We've got the 2 tournament nights. It's only tournament games on those 2 nights, all the way through till the next Saturday when the final is. That's the only game on that day, and then we get into the we get into another Sunday with no games. 2 Sundays in a row with no NBA games. So that's a little, I don't love that part of it, but it's fine. They're going to figure this stuff out. They're going to keep, tweaking and adjusting all the scheduling and all that stuff. And the one I keep calling it the NCAA tournament for some reason this week. They get into it and they're going to call it the in-season tournament. It's at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is weird considering it's in Las Vegas. So my guess is they don't want to go against Thursday Night Football with the 2 games. Then you should have made it not on a Thursday. You should have done it on a different night. But whatever, it is what it is. And, I know we'll be watching anyway.
That's really when it's really set for 5 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah, 5 p.m. Eastern and 9 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's 9 or 9:30. Yeah.
Yikes.
So that's 2 o'clock local time in Las Vegas.
Right. Holy moly.
Yeah.
That's shocking. I did not realize that. And that's a major surprise. If you want people to watch it, why would you put it on so early? Okay. Well,
it's got to be they don't want to go against Thursday Night Football. That's the only thing I can imagine is they don't want 2 games, basically the end of the one and then the whole of the second game being swallowed up by Thursday Night Football, which, I mean, it's the reality is even the NBA in-season tournament, they're not going to meet they're not going to beat the NFL ratings wise, but it is what it is.
Interesting. That's an interesting choice to make, to put it on. I mean, Pacific time, we're talking about the middle of the afternoon. To put the game on then is better than going up against the NFL. I mean, how we know the NFL is strong, but my goodness, like the NFL is Thanos with all 6 Infinity Stones at this point, if that's the way the NBA is acting here. Interesting though. Let's jump into. I'm just looking through some of the news stories here for the day, and let's get to this. Zach LaVine does not have a trade market. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, he says that's not because Chicago hasn't tried to find it and aren't currently trying to find it. They're looking for a market. They're not finding a market. That's the problem. He said it's because of his contract. It's also his productivity. Right now he's dealing with a foot injury. He's been in and out of the lineup, and a lot of questions on does he impact winning, or how much does he impact winning, especially at that salary. And is he if you're going to really win with Zach LaVine, you probably need him to be your 3rd best player. Well, do you want to pay your 3rd best player $40+ million and then more than that next year and then more than that the year after and year after that? That's a tough spot to be in. So this could get tricky, because I have a lot of Bulls fans saying, well, Zach LaVine's really, really good and they're expecting a good return for him and all this. But I think Woj has a point. If you're expecting Zach LaVine to be a 1A or even 1B guy, which is what he's paid as, that's probably not realistic at this point.
Yeah, the challenge is too, it's December 1st. So we're still in a spot where a lot of guys aren't tradable yet. So trade markets are still very much developing. And I'm not going to say there's no market for Zach LaVine. My guess is I'm going to take that as there is not a market the Bulls like for Zach LaVine right now. Because I'm sure they've gotten crappy offers, and I'm sure they're like, nah, we'll hold out. But to the point is, they're not. I've heard some people so I wrote for Spot Track. I wrote a piece called Breaking Up the Bulls, and I pitched them all fake trades in there for basically almost all the main guys on the roster. And in the LaVine trade, I heard a couple people like, I don't know, it feels like a light return. You're not getting 4 first rounders and swaps and young
Mhm.
talent and all that kind of return. It's just not going to happen. One, teams aren't doing that unless the guy's a super duper star like Kevin Durant now. And beyond that, it's just going to be in a place where people are, going to kind of, he's just not the guy to give that up for. So it's, you might get a pick or two and a young player and then matching salary in the form of filler, and that's what you get for him. So we'll kind of go from there. My guess is, though, this one, we've been saying it over and over and over again. It's not going to be immediate, but this may drag out much longer than the Bulls really wanted to. And on
Mhm.
top of that, he was ruled out earlier this morning for a week with a foot injury. So that's another thing that now teams are going to be like, what's going on with this foot injury? What's happening there? What does his knee look like? They're going to really want to get into the medicals before
Yeah.
people commit, 4 years and almost $180 million.
Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind is, and we're always preaching this. You have to think about where the information is coming from. Are the Bulls
Mhm.
telling Woj that no, there's no market, nobody's interested in
Sure.
Zach LaVine? No, of course not. This is other teams that are saying, man, we're not that interested in Zach LaVine because it's December. Because guess what? You know what? When fans are going berserk because such and such team wants multiple firsts for their role player. The same is true in the inverse, where other teams are saying, hell no, we're not going to pay that. You'll be lucky if we give you a second for this player, right? And then sometime around, mid-January to the beginning of February, suddenly that becomes, all right, will you do it first? Sure, we'll come up to a first. Okay, let's go. And you get something done. So I think that's, you mentioned the time of year. That is a big piece of this. It's the fact that right now everybody is going to be digging in their heels, and they're going to be trying to put out information that is going to favor them. And so I think that's a part of this. Do I believe that no team wants Zach LaVine? No, I don't buy that. I do think the concerns are real, and those are concerns that teams will have, and those concerns will prevent them from saying, yeah, let's go all in. Let's go get this guy. But I would be surprised if Zach LaVine is a Chicago Bull after February 8th.
I'd be shocked. I'll be surprised if he's a Bull at the beginning of February. I think this will get done. It may be in the January timeframe when really everybody who can be traded gets traded, or like anybody who would be traded, is eligible. So that's where it would probably come down to. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it takes all the way to the trade deadline, but I'm with you. I don't think he'll be on the Bulls after the trade deadline for sure.
Wouldn't it be fun if this year, because we've cautioned so much that December 15th is not like the starting gun goes off and everybody is off to the races on the trade. Wouldn't it be fun if December 15th, like right as the window opens for a trade, boom, we get a Zach LaVine trade?
It'd be amazing. Certainly not going to expect it, but I love
No,
it.
that
Yeah,
would
it'd
be
be
like
great.
an early Christmas.
Yeah, yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, the earliest trade last year was Rui Hachimura, like
Yep.
so that to give everybody a
But
sense,
and
and
that
that
was
was
in
in early
January.
January. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's pretty rare. Every once in a while, we get one in like late December. I think the Rondo trade was in like late December when he got sent to the Cavs in that deal when they needed a point guard, and that's how that went down. So maybe then, but yeah, these things don't happen right away.
All right. To those of you joining in the chat, we will get to some of your questions and comments. Remember, the way you guarantee that your question or comment gets read is with a super chat, and that's for appropriate ones, of course. But yeah, we'll be getting to these in just a moment. In fact, let's get to this here. KC Sports Authority threw out a hypothetical. What about a Zach LaVine swap to the Mavs for Tim Hardaway and something? I don't think that really. If you're the Bulls and you're trading away Zach LaVine, you're heading in a different direction. I don't think Tim Hardaway really fits
It
a
doesn't make sense for the Mavs
teardown.
either. You already have Luka
Right.
and Kyrie. You
Yep.
don't need Zach LaVine. That's just another guy who needs the ball and is not a positive defender. So, no, I'd stay away.
Keith, you want to do some real quick salary math here? LaVine and Caruso, so that's 50 million roughly going out from the Bulls for D'Lo, Prince, and Austin Reeves. Off the top of my head, that's not enough money
Not enough money.
on that side.
Yeah.
That's only what D'Lo's 17, Reeves is 11-ish. So that puts you at 28, and Prince is 4.5. So that's 32, 33.5. Yeah, that's well short of a workable deal.
Yeah, I want to be very clear that I'm saying this is strictly his salary. Taurean Prince has little to no value. in a trade, salary matching wise. Player wise, yes, there's some value there, but salary matching wise, there's nothing there because it's only $4.5 million. So that's not enough. Because the other thing you'd have to consider with this, even if the Lakers are currently today they're not over the tax apron, you take back that much money, they would be, and that changes the math. So this is just an important note with everyone. It's about 33.8 million that the Lakers would be sending out there, and taking back 50, it doesn't work. So it's important to know on this one that it is, when you do a trade, it is always where you are after the trade that equals your salary matching. So in this case, the Lakers would end up over the apron, which they also cannot do. They're hard capped at the apron. But in a normal, if they weren't hard capped, if you go over the apron, you end up in a different salary matching tier, because it's always post trade is what they figure out you're matching on, not pre trade. So just that's a bit of a complicating factor, but in this case, they would end up over the apron, and they wouldn't be allowed to do that anyway because they're hard capped at the apron.
All right, while we're on the LaVine topic here, and we'll get to a super chat after this, Banjito said, should the Hornets stay away from LaVine, or beggars can't be choosers? I've seen this quite a bit. A lot of, well, no pun intended, I guess pun intended, because now that I recognize it ahead of time, buzz about the Hornets and LaVine. And the thought being that, hey, maybe we should be the team to go after this guy. Keith, you and I talked about this yesterday with Indiana being a team that's not a free agent destination. So therefore, they make a little bit more sense to go trade, not necessarily for Zach LaVine, but to try to make an upgrade on the trade market. Does the same hold true for Charlotte? And then is LaVine the guy they should go after? Or should they even bother going after anybody this season? Is this another kind of lost season in the making for them?
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte, they're in a spot where you saw how they got free agents. They overpaid Gordon Hayward. They paid him, like $20 million more than anybody else was willing to give him, that offseason. They overpaid Terry Rozier when they got him as part of that kind of dual sign-and trade that's like Kemba Walker the other way. On occasion, not saying right now, but on occasion, they've had to overpay their own free agents just to keep them in Charlotte. So it's my challenge is, if you're the Hornets, you're finally almost out from underneath the Hayward contract. It's got this year. It runs out. He'd have to be in a deal almost assuredly, because almost nothing else makes sense from a salary matching perspective. So then what you do is, now we're kind of right back in the spot again. Is LaVine going to lift you anywhere better? Whereas a team like Indiana's already good-ish, right? They're okay. I'm not saying they're great. They're not title contenders, but they're a good team. They should probably be in the mix for a top 6 seed, but definitely a play-in team.
Yeah,
LaVine could lift them, could take them a little bit further. So that could be something there. With them, or with Charlotte, they've got so far to go. I'm just not sure LaVine lifts them. So that's a very long way of saying I'd probably stay away if I was the Hornets.
Yeah, agreed. And that makes me wonder if the Hornets are not going to stay away, because most of the time it seems like when I say, oh, the Hornets shouldn't do that, they do that.
I'll say this too with the Hornets. There's an expectation that they're going to clean house after this season. New ownership group. Sounds like Mitch Kupchak. I think what will happen is they'll let him retire so he can save a little face versus firing him. But if he doesn't want to, sounds like he may get fired. And then Steve Clifford's he's a lame duck coach. He's playing out the string on his last year. And if we remember, they didn't even want to hire him in the first place. They tried to hire Kenny Atkinson, and then Kenny Atkinson had the job, was basically done, and changed his mind and didn't want to go. So at that point, with the new ownership group, they're going to want their own people in charge. They're going to want to set things up their own way. So I don't know that ownership is going to sign off on, hey, yeah, let's make a trade where we add, 180 million to our cap sheet and to our books here. Let's they may say, no, we need to stay away. We're not even going to approve a trade like this for Zach LaVine.
Yeah, he's not Ricardo Rincon, to make the same joke as yesterday. JJ Ramirez, Trey Young on the trade block. Is Atlanta going to hold on to him? He said Lakers might be interested, but let's just take the first part of that. Does Trey Young, this is we've heard rumbles for maybe a season and a half now that maybe Atlanta was going to move on from Trey Young at some point. I don't. I always kind of felt like he's their guy, right? He's the guy that they want to build around. Do you really see them making that drastic of a move to say, you know what, we're going to be a DeJounte Murray led team now, and let's move on from Trey Young?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think this year at the trade deadline. Certainly, I think maybe that could be a if things really don't go the way they want, maybe that's something they explore in the offseason. They're going to have to do something. They have on the books right now next year 4 guys who make north of $20 million. So it's DeAndre Hunter at 21.7, Clint Capella at 22.3, DeJounte Murray, that extension he signed kicks in at 25.5. And then you have Trey Young at 43 million on his max deal.
Expensive
Then,
team.
then you have Onyeka Okongwu at 14 on his extension, Bogdan Bogdanovic at 17.3 on his extension. And that's without re-signing Sadiq Bey. And then you've got a bunch of smaller salaries for guys, mostly guys they drafted. So this team they're right around the tax line. I don't know that the Hawks ownership group is going to say, yeah, let's go deep into the tax for this team that's 41-41 and in the play-in tournament. So something's going to break in Atlanta if they don't really improve. They're not a top 6 team. If they're not like 45 wins or more and make some noise in the postseason, I'm not saying they have to win, but maybe they win a round or they play a really close first round series against a good team and extend them, kind of what they did a few years ago to Philadelphia in the Bucks. They can do that, then that starts to become, you start to change the story a little bit. But other than that, probably nothing good gonna come of it. And then at that point, you probably do start thinking, all right, do we need to think about trading Trey Young? Is that a way to recoup some of the draft assets we had given up in a DeJounte Murray type trade and those sort of things? Because I've seen, it's funny, I listened to a national podcast today where they were like, yeah, but Trey Young, isn't he just Zach LaVine too? And it's like, no, he's way better than Zach LaVine. Like,
no, I mean, the just even if we just talk about the passing,
yeah,
they're nowhere near the same level.
The way he scores, the way he shoots, like
everything.
He's just a different player. Like they're both little to no defense guards that can fill up the scoring column. Wow. But Trey Young's a guy you could build an entire offense around and know you're going to have a top 10 offense with that. You can't do that necessarily with Zach LaVine. So very different trade value. And yes, they would get multiple draft picks back and all sorts of stuff. So that's going to few bridges too far.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine Trey Young in the dunk contest? I mean, right? Like exactly, they play so different. That's funny that comparison actually got made. Let me ask you this, Keith, because this has been a story that's been going around, Lakers fans. LeBron, after last night's game, he said that if Bronny makes his USC debut on a night when the Lakers are playing, he's going to miss the Lakers game and he's going to go to Bronny's USC game. Should anybody be upset by that? Are you upset by that at all? Do you think that's taking things too far, or do you think LeBron is justified in saying
that? Yeah, I'm not upset by it in the slightest. I think he should. There was a point where I am sure, and I've not verified this with LeBron James and the James family. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there was a point where they're like, is he going to live or is he going to die?
Yeah.
Right. Because you hear cardiac arrest, and more often than not, that goes a very tragic way. So I think if you're LeBron, it's not only did my kid live, but now he's going to play. Hell yeah, I'm going to be in the building.
Yeah.
Now, I looked at the schedules for both. I think he's probably okay anyway, because it looks like they have a pretty good break here. They play tomorrow, but Bronny's not going to play in that game by all accounts. So his first chance to debut would be on the 10th. And we just said there's no NBA games on the 10th.
Right.
Even if the Lakers make it all the way to the in-season tournament final, they're only in Las Vegas. And then the game's at USC. So that's
quick flight back.
Pop home. He goes to the game. Now all bases are covered. That's my guess is how this will probably line up. They'll get a week of practice in with Bronny, and then he'll make his debut next week. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after, and everything will be fine with it. But even if there was a conflict, go. Like, they're going to spot him a rest game somewhere, so call it a rest night and let him go do what he wants to do, which is watch his kid play. Like I couldn't have a less of a problem with this. Like it's just it's no one single NBA regular season game is going to be more important than him being in the stands to watch his kid play. When at one point a hopeful outcome was maybe he just can't play basketball anymore.
He
Right? Like
survives, right?
yeah,
That
he
was the
survived, and
right.
now it's obviously way better than that. So yeah,
Yeah.
just do your thing.
I'm with you 100%. Don't really have much to add to what you were saying there, because I agree with everything that you said. I have no issue with it whatsoever, and I don't think you really should have a problem. Yeah, we want to say, hey, you want to win every game, and you need to be there for your team and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, let's face it, I think any parent would want to be there for their kid in that situation and be there for that night in that moment. So there's we talk about it every once in a while. It comes up. Some things are bigger than basketball, and I think this is one of those things.
Yeah, well, I've seen a little bit, and thankfully it's only a little bit. People are griping because Luka Doncic is going to miss tonight's game. He just had a kid, like, and I believe it's his first kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, miss the game. Like it's fine. Like this, these things are not that big. I mean, there was a point when we were on board or like I was on like every time I left, like I'd go into work meetings, obviously pre this, and I would
Mhm.
say, hey, I might get a text from my wife that it's baby time. And if I do, I'm just packing up and leaving.
Yeah.
Like, cause that's where we were. And like, yeah, I get it. I wasn't a professional athlete, but yeah, I mean, these things are not that big of a deal. Derek White missed a game earlier this year because they had a baby. Like, that's, like you got to have a little bit of perspective with this stuff.
When
Game
my
7 of the NBA Finals, that might be a different story. I could understand why
sure.
people get very upset. A regular season game, whatever. Who cares?
When my daughter was born, it was a few days before the first week of school. And as a teacher, like you really don't want to miss the first week of school.
Yep.
But I did. And looking back, like I wish I'd taken more time. I took a week and I did everything I could to try to like stop by school and be involved and all that. Cause I was worried, like, oh, hey, my classes are going to start with a sub for the first week. Like there's going to be problems and are people going to look down on me for taking time off and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Like that time is worth more than anything. It's worth more than people being a little bit upset at work for a little bit, which that's what we're talking about here with LeBron. Might there be a few fans that are upset if LeBron's not there and the Lakers lose as a result or something? Sure, but this is a bigger deal than just one basketball game.
Yep, agreed.
All right. Oh, here's a good one. What songs would you like to hear more or less in arenas?
I don't. I'm gonna sound so old today. I'm not big on a lot of this stuff. A lot of it, it's just background noise to me.
Yeah.
I don't hear most of it. Like during timeouts, I'm usually doing something else. I quite often when I'm in the arena, because to be fair, I'm there on a credential. When I'm there, so I have my laptop. I usually have my headphones in and I'm watching a second game on my laptop. So I can check in on that during timeouts. I don't hear a lot of that stuff. But yeah, it was very funny. I mean, I saw the Steve Kerr complaints about, God, we've turned these games and it's like a rock concert out there or whatever. And it was so loud and all the complaints he had a couple weeks ago. It happened on the exact same day. Pop was like, don't boo Kawhi. I don't know. That stuff, it literally goes, I guess, in one ear and out the other.
I think it's because I do the same thing where I'm like, does it need to be this loud and everything? And then when I took my daughter that game, it was the music that kept her really engaged in the game and into it and everything. I'm like, that to me went, okay, this is why. You know what I mean? Like, because you and I, we're gonna focus on the basketball. We're gonna focus on what's happening on the floor, and that's exciting. That is our wheelhouse. That's where we want to be. But that's not true of everybody. And the NBA, as much as we use casual as a derogatory term, the NBA cares about casual fans. They care a lot. Yeah. And for them, the whole experience, it's not just what's happening on the floor. It's the music, it's the food, it's the atmosphere, it's everything that is going to make or break their experience there. And so I don't have a problem necessarily with the music. As far as songs I'd like to hear more or less, I think most people probably wouldn't agree with me because I go to more like the classic rock stuff and everything that I want to hear. And so, yeah, most people probably wouldn't agree with my music choices, but I can't think of a specific song that I really am like, oh man, I wish they would stop playing this one or something like that. Maybe the na 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 hey 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 goodbye song when a guy gets kicked out of a game. But I'll say this: can we do away with the kiss cam?
No, I
Do
love
you
the
like
kiss
the kiss
cam.
cam?
Yeah, kiss cam cracks me up. I
Okay.
don't like how many times the kiss cam ends in something that's obviously staged. Like those ones I don't like.
Yes.
I like at Orlando Magic games, it's very clearly staged because it's if you look, there's like nobody ever really sitting around this person, but
Mhm.
they do a thing where they finish it with somebody in the other team's jersey, and then they
Yeah.
play
And
all by myself. And that always gets a laugh out of me. They also do the oblivious cam before games when they're warming up, and it's like people who are like looking down at their phone,
oh, and they're
and then
not
they
paying
run a
attention.
timer on it, and sometimes it's like 5 minutes before
Okay, that's
somebody will
pretty
be
cool.
like, oh man, I'm on the thing. So yeah, that all that stuff I think is, that stuff again, it's if I notice it, I tend to enjoy it more than I don't. But I'm with you. Hey, if this is what fans want, they want to get all crazy and go nuts, go nuts. What one drives me like insane because
Mhm.
it's such a lie is the noise meter. Like,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I've been, trust me, I've watched some April Orlando Magic games where it's like the media members may outnumber the fans in the arena as
Yeah.
far as making noise, and the thing still is like popping the meter, and it's like
Right.
there's like four dudes that are drunk and clapping very loud.
And
Like, what are we doing here? So that said, the Magic crowds right now, man, they are
they're good.
fired up. It's been really fun going there. They pull in a pretty good crowd. So I have a good time, with that stuff. But yeah, no, I'm for the most part with all these. Woj just tweeted Bogdan or see, now I did it because you
Now
did it
you did it
yesterday.
because I did it yesterday. Yep.
Bojan Bogdanovic is probable to make his season
All right.
debut. So
Well,
so we'll see
some
see if
help
he can
coming.
help them snap what is now a 16 game
Ooh.
losing streak in Detroit. And I was listening to this earlier today. Another one of the podcasts was listening to Zach Lowe, and he
Mhm.
didn't go like game by game, but he went through there that if they don't pull out a surprise win or a win over the Memphis Grizzlies, which is certainly possible, the Grizzlies aren't playing great. This could extend into the 20s for a losing streak for the Pistons.
They have not won in the month of November.
Yeah, I know. Did
Like
you see what I
entire
tweeted
the,
last night?
the entire month. No, I didn't. What'd you tweet?
I tweeted a lot of teams go winless in months. It's just usually August and September.
Oh no.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
poor
picking them when
poor
they were
Detroit.
down a little bit.
Ouch. Ouch. I think maybe as the chat has mentioned, I think maybe it's just the awkwardness of the kiss cam that I
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
like. I
yeah.
don't it's
Well, that's what makes it
fully
funny,
it's
right?
see,
Like,
I almost feel bad for the people in that situation.
I
Especially
like when
especially I think it's this. I think I saw one that was going around online where the guy went for it and the girl did not.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like,
Then you feel a
oh,
little bad.
that guy's just he's ruined, right? Like that's brutal.
I like the ones where they put them up there and then like, no, we're brother and sister. Like
Oh
those
yeah,
ones
yeah.
make me laugh.
There's a classic one where the guy has a sign ready or something. Like maybe it was a plant or something like that, but he holds up a sign. I'm pretty sure it said this is my sister or something like
Yeah, or
that.
something. Yeah.
It was pretty
Yeah.
good.
Those things
Pretty
are
good.
pretty funny. But
Yeah.
yeah, what's oh, that's not just someone saying that's my mom. The fake Trevor in the chat.
Oh
The
no.
Jaden Ivey, Monty Williams situation. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's a situation necessarily, but there's definitely some stuff bubbling. Jake Fisher mentioned this. Zach Lowe mentioned
Mhm.
this. Jaden Ivey doesn't seem super happy that he's not playing a lot. I'm with Jaden Ivey. I'm not super happy that Jaden Ivey's not playing a lot. They benched Asar Thompson last night. I
Mhm.
don't fully didn't bench him, but they took him out of the starting group. I know he certainly wasn't the problem in that starting group. So I don't know. That's very very messy. Like in Detroit, I there's nothing there. Like they're not interesting. They're just a mess. Like I couldn't be more out on the entire thing right now in Detroit unless they lean in and say, hey, we're gonna play all the kids and play super up tempo and try a bunch of different stuff. Then they get interesting to me. But what they're doing right now is just messy and gross.
They're not a fun watch.
No.
That's for sure. They're not a fun watch. Brian wants to know, what is Alex Caruso's trade value in terms of return? Well, it depends. Are you asking the Bulls or are you asking an opposing team? Because they probably have two very different answers right now, and those answers will probably get closer together as we get closer to February 8th. But I don't know. Like, do you think he's worth it? Is it an unprotected first? Is that crazy for the Bulls to expect a return like that?
Yeah, so the idea I pitched was a first and Dyson Daniels from
Mm-hmm.
the New Orleans Pelicans, because I think he'd be great with the Pelicans. I think imagine him and Herb Jones together. Like, good luck scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think he'd be a really good fit for them. And my thought process was you get an interesting young player, and I had the Pelicans trading one of the Milwaukee picks they own, so it's a first, but it's
It's
probably
a
not a
late
great
first.
first.
Yeah.
So that's probably where it is. I think you either get a first and maybe like a second protected pick or a very late pick, or a first and a young player. That feels about right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
I
got to
think
be
that.
the right kind of team, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're Atlanta, I don't know that you do that, because is he going to boost you enough? Even though he probably would help their defense quite a bit, but is that enough of a boost? Probably not. If you're Charlotte, you certainly shouldn't be doing anything like that. If you're, like I said, the Pelicans or any other number of good teams, you should definitely be involved on trying to get Alex Caruso.
Yeah, if you're a quality team, he's a guy that can definitely help you out, can help you win games. You saw what he did against the Bucks the other night. Yeah, he's a guy that can definitely help. So I think they will. I think there's going to be teams interested in him to the point where there'll be a little bit of a bidding war. So maybe he'll get a decent return, but I'm not expecting like multiple firsts or anything like that. Right now, though, every team that's looking to potentially sell a player is saying first round picks or
Yeah.
first round pick at least, right? And then opposing teams are going, oh, we wouldn't pay that much. And then, it'll get closer as we
Everything comes.
get there.
Yeah, like we always say, we need two firsts, and other teams like, how about a second and an expiring contract? And then we get in the middle, and it's like an expiring contract and a first. Great, we're done, and off we go.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly the way this goes down. What do you think about our pal Jake Fisher with his report that Miles Bridges is potentially leaving Charlotte? This will be his final season in Charlotte, and then he'll move on. Thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, as far as I understand, contract negotiations did not get very far between Bridges and the Hornets this summer. He was obviously last summer of 2022. They never got anywhere because everything with him, the initial domestic violence situation, happened right on the start of the off season, like
Mhm.
literally like free agency eve it was, I think, or maybe the
Yeah.
day before. But it was right there, so nothing happened that one. This year again, Hornets again made him a restricted free agent, and when they got into that spot, it really was a place where for the two guys it was, or for the two sides, I don't think the Hornets wanted to give him a long-term deal and hand him all kinds of money, knowing what it was. And I think Bridges was like, fine, I'll sign the qualifying offer, play out the year, and off I'll go.
Mhm.
We'll figure this out. So this has always screamed to me, this is a short-term relationship. He has the right to block any trade if they try to trade him anywhere. But I think there's a chance we could see him get traded versus just watching him walk away. And then the team that acquires him is going to have to take the PR hit and
Mhm.
walk through it, and try to sell it to people that, hey, this is why we did it. But the moral bar for NBA teams, especially if they think the guy can help them win a title, it's not very high. Like you could step over it, or you could probably slide a piece of paper underneath it and have no issues. Like it's just going to be right there on the ground. So
Yeah, so what do you I mean, I can't even imagine what his trade value would be. But if you're the Hornets and you already know that this is it, it's this year and that's it for you and him, and your team's not playing very well, so you're not worried about do we lose him and then we don't win as many games and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious to see what his trade value would actually be, because I would have to imagine the Hornets would be a fairly motivated seller in this situation.
yeah, I think there's two challenges. One, he is supposedly super close with LaMelo Ball. Like they are
Yeah.
apparently very tight. So that it will be a factor in things here. And we've kind of LaMelo Ball hasn't been like super like supported. It's not like he was tweeting every day like free Miles Bridges or anything like that. But when he came back as the team leader, he was like, hey, he's back and we're gonna welcome him back and try to get him going again. So there's definitely some stuff going on there. So you kind of get that situation going on. But I think the if you're the Hornets, if he's leaving, give me anything of value. So give
Hmm.
me a single first round pick, even if it's a late one. Give me a young guy who can kind of play. Give me that. Let's move on and let's go from there. Because you're not returning a major, great value for Miles Bridges. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that you might as well move on from him. I think Charlotte is looking at another lost season here. I think Gordon Hayward needs to be moved for whatever they can get. Move Miles Bridges for whatever you can get, especially if you're looking at major changes at the organizational level this coming summer. Why not? Whoever you're going to bring in, give them as many tools to work with as possible and move forward from there. That's all you
Yeah,
can do.
without a doubt. Yep. Hey, wanted to just mention this.
Hmm.
We talked about the Mavs sale a couple days ago.
Yeah.
The Indiana Pacers are selling a chunk of the team, 15% more. To I believe it's Steven Rails is his name. He's a technology guy, but he already owned 5%. He's going to go up to now owning 20%. Also, reportedly, maybe has right of first refusal if the Simon family ever wants to sell. But the bigger part, he's buying that 15% of the team at a $3.5 billion
Hmm.
valuation. So here we are, a second team. Now, Dallas, we all think probably would have gone for slightly more had there not been the conditions of Cuban still retains control of basketball operations. There's now been additional reporting. He has that for however long he wants it. And we'll see what that means and what that looks like, obviously. But there is with this Pacers, that's two teams now, 3.5 billion. I think we're settling into a range where teams are going to be somewhere between 3.5 and 4 for most. The
Hmm.
higher end teams, if they ever wanted to sell them, we're probably talking 5, 6, 7 in that range. But I think what we're also going to see is this starts kind of setting the bar for what the expansion fees could be. In
Oh,
the
good point.
expansion fees, you can basically tack on about $1 billion because that's how the teams will make more money off allowing them in. And why you tack that on is, hey, we have to now split everything 32 ways instead of 30 ways. So you got to pay us to do that beyond just coming in at your base amount. So it's going to be, we'll see. I just think it's going to be somewhere in the 4.5, 5 billion range as each of these teams gets added to the league when that happens.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head what the last expansion team went for?
I do. I can tell you,
Oh,
it was the Bobcats, and I think it was about
that's right.
2.
2 billion.
I think I think I had that in my piece. If not, I can find it and look. I more wrote about like the timeline and like what
Hmm.
happened with that. So we'll see. Uh, did I write about it? I didn't, but I think it was right around 1 or 2 with that. So
All right. Well, so that is a pretty big increase then in the value of
yeah,
teams
yeah,
over that
absolutely.
span.
I
I mean,
mean,
we knew it was going to be a big increase, but still, that's
yeah,
things are good in the NBA.
Mark Cuban bought the Mavs for 285 million.
Yeah.
Like Herb Simon when he bought the Pacers. Now this was in 1983. You know what he paid for him? If
What,
you had to
like
guess,
3 million or something? I'm
11
guessing
million.
11.
11
Okay.
million. And now $3.5 billion is what they're worth. Like that's crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like that's just absolutely nuts. So it's
And that's why it's a family would want to just invest in the Mavs, right? Just it's an investment that's worked out.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be right. This is going to be where these things kind of land out, right? Where we're gonna see a lot of this stuff kind of come in, and it was it's we're the league is healthy. The league just released today. They had their highest in arena attendance
Mm.
ever in the month of November on average attendance. It was the highest it's ever been. which is really good. The TV deal is going to make billions upon billions of dollars, for the league. Hey, I think the NBA had to go absolutely bonkers when they just saw NASCAR sold their rights for like $7 billion. So I think it's like, oh baby, like let's go. Like we're certainly making a lot more than that. So yeah, it's going to be absolutely crazy, and the league's as healthy as it's ever been. So yeah, that's why they're going to get this kind of money for these teams.
Yep, TV deal is going to get done, and then expansion.
Yep, it's coming. Yeah, anybody who thinks it's not coming is it's just wrong. like it is definitely going to be here. I wrote about it. We're running a series on Spot Track where I'm writing about a bunch of expansion topics. And the first one I wrote on kind of what's the timeline, like what could it realistically look like, and then what is the process when the league says we're going to expand? How does the process work from there? And a little bit of history in there with the last couple of rounds of expansion. So the Bobcats, the Raptors, Grizzlies, and then if we go back to the late 80s when the Heat and Hornets and then the Timberwolves and Magic came in, they split them. The Heat Hornets came in the first year, and then a year later Magic and Timberwolves came in. But yeah, we're going to be in kind of a golden age of expansion coming here for sure.
All right, Keith, let's finish with some scheduled nonsense here.
Let's do it.
So I'm happy to say I'm now 3 episodes into Loki. I am making some progress there. Right. So I'm getting there.
Oh,
I'm coming along.
Let me say something real quick, just to close the loop on this before we get into our nonsense.
Yeah.
$300 million was all the Bobcats paid. So definitely going way up.
Well, it's gone way up.
That's my bad on that. I thought it was like 2, but I was could not have been more off.
Wow.
I was off by like a multiple of 10. So
jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Well, good correction there.
Let's go Loki. Let's hear it.
So Loki. So I'm 3 episodes in. I'm digging that. So far, so good. There's got some twists, some turns, and things of that nature. That's been pretty cool. Didn't like all those people getting squished in the transparent box. That was a little rough. Yeah, that was a little rough. But otherwise, so far so good. I'm having nightmares about a creepy clock following me, but otherwise, I'll keep watching here, and I'm hoping to get through it soon. Maybe in the next week or two, I'll get through the entire series. But what I wanted to ask you though was Christmas movies. Now that we are officially into December, what are your, let's say, top 3 Christmas movies?
Christmas Vacation is definitely my top one. Home Alone, the original one, and then probably Christmas Story. Still, like I still like that one with Ralphie.
Okay, so I'm, and that is the classic. I remember years ago they did that thing. I want to say it was TNT, where like they just aired that movie for 24 hours straight.
24 hours. Yeah, TBS.
Oh, it was TBS. That's what it was. But I'm going to agree with you on the first 2. For number 3, though, The Christmas Story is good, but I'm going to say Elf. That's the one that I wind up having to watch every year at Christmas time. Actually, I have already watched it. Today's the first day of December. I've already watched it. I've watched that so far. I've watched Home Alone, The Santa Claus, and Christmas Vacation over the last like 2 weeks. We've watched a few. My daughter's been big into Christmas stuff and everything. So yeah, I've watched a few of them, but I've got Elf up there. I think it's just an absolute classic, and I got to commend Will Ferrell for turning down doing a sequel despite all the money being thrown at him, because sometimes you can ruin it when you do a sequel, especially if the script isn't right. So kudos to him for saying, nope, I'm going to leave it at what it is, and this is a holiday classic.
All right, so I have 3 thoughts on this. So my first thought is there is, if you're into the Santa Claus, I think Disney Plus has the Santa Clauses, which is like a TV show like version of that. So there's that. Now on Elf. First is I know Rex Chapman retweeted this. It went around when it was being shown because they did it. So you're absolutely right. It was on TV. They did a 24 hours of Elf. Like I think it was on either Thanksgiving or Black Friday or leading into it. That was on one of the Turner channels. But it was a when they came in there, the Elf original cut had them playing a hockey game at the North Pole, and he's just hammering and checking little elves all over the ice. So go
Does this
check that
footage
out.
exist somewhere?
Yeah. Rex Chapman retweeted it.
Oh, there's footage.
On
Okay,
Twitter.
I need to go find
You
this.
you can go read it. Yeah, it is really, really funny to see that. So yeah, it's really, really, really funny stuff.
Wait, is this they actually filmed it, or this was just in the script?
Yeah. No, this was filmed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a deleted scene where you can see them playing hockey, and it's just Will Ferrell wiping out elves all over the ice.
It's like the dodgeball scene in Billy Madison.
Yeah. Yes. A little bit. Yeah. It's like Carnage, like that. So it's pretty funny. So check that out when you have a chance. And I'm sure if you just Google like elf deleted scene hockey, it'd probably pop right up.
I will definitely have to find that.
My third thing related to elf, I don't know if they're still there, but Krispy Kreme Donuts was running an elf series of donuts. And we happened to be out last weekend, and we needed something to eat in the morning. And we were like, oh, we should probably just grab some Krispy Kremes. It went in, and one of the donuts was Buddy's Breakfast. And it was it was a glazed donut.
Spaghetti?
It was like the base. It wasn't spaghetti, but what they did was they took like buttercream and put it on top, made it look like spaghetti, and then dumped a bunch of M&M pieces on top of it. Okay. And then put maple glaze on top of that for the maple syrup.
Oh.
So it like one was like, well, there's now all the good work I've been doing losing weight. I ate this. I'm now off track, but it was worth it. It was pretty good. And then there was a Santa one or something, and another one. I don't know. I didn't eat all of them, but the Buddy's Breakfast one was pretty funny.
I thought it was really interesting the way they used like forced perspective in order to create the height differences with the elves and everything in that movie. That was really cool. Netflix has a cool behind the scenes type docu-series on that. I think it's like the movies we grew up on or something, and they've got Elf as one of them. Yeah. Very, very cool. All right, a lot of people are saying Die Hard. Yes, but like I was thinking movies I watched with my daughter. Die Hard, I'll watch my wife won't even want to watch it. I'll watch it by myself one night. I'll watch Die Hard.
The Hawkeye TV show's getting some love, which sure.
Yeah, there was Christmas time in that movie.
It was Christmas time in that.
That was a good one.
For sure.
That was
is
a good
James
one.
Caan really dead?
He is, yeah.
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. I really didn't know that. Died last year.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
2022.
That happened, unfortunately.
Man, yeah, do you get some of those sometimes? Like you'll see something, like a lot of times I see like something like trending on Twitter, and then I'll be like, oh, what's going on? And then I look, and a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, it's just their birthday. And then like people share the bunch of the things with stuff. Am I old enough to remember the NCAA title game between Magic and Bird? No. I was born, but I'm not old enough to remember that.
Yeah.
My first like real basketball memories is the 1984 NBA Finals with the like I was 6, and it was I wanted to say it was Celtics and Rockets right that year. Am I right? Yeah, Celtics Rockets, I think. Right? So that's my first real memory. I don't remember Bird and Magic. No.
I remember doing Kareem's skyhook on a little mini hoop in my living room. My first game, I think I want to say it was 87, and the Sixers superstar Charles Barkley got kicked out of the game for throwing an elbow, and that was my first basketball game experience that I can kind of sort of remember. That was obviously quite a while ago.
Without a doubt. The first game I remember was a game from that season. We went. My uncle had season tickets, and I went with my uncle to one of the games.
Nice!
They had 3 season tickets, and it was my uncle, the guy I had the tickets with, and the guy didn't bring his wife, so my uncle brought me. And like that was my first time seeing like Larry Bird play in person, and like I was already hooked. Like it was like it's any kid who grew up in the 80s on the East Coast, like for the most part, I think was a Bird kid. And then if you were on the West Coast, you were a Magic kid. And like that was just kind of how it worked out. And you went from there. So, and then late 80s, then you had MJ and everything else mix in. But yeah, that's the first one I ever remember going to as a kid, and then went to a million games after that. I went to a lot of bad basketball from the Celtics. Unfortunately,
for a while
after the post-Bird era, it was pretty rough. I was in the last game in the Boston Garden. They lost the game to the Orlando Magic, a playoff game. Shaq's first playoff series win was that year. The Celtics were led by none other than Sherman Douglas. During that series, he was tearing it up for them, and that was they were the 8th seed, and the Magic were the 1 seed. And the Celtics actually won game 1 of that series, and it was like everybody, like even back then, the overreactions flew wild, and it was like, the young Magic aren't ready to win, like they're just not ready, and then they ended up making the finals that year. So
and there they are.
Yeah,
you just never know. All right, we do have a super chat here to finish off the show with. Let's see. We've got, this one says, Pop's not booing is courting Kawhi because he has a player option and he's unrestricted free agent, can be paired with Wembanyama. I don't think that's what's actually happening there. Like, I can't imagine Kawhi going back to San Antonio at this point.
Yeah, I think Kawhi is done with that phase of his career. You never say never. I mean, anything can happen, but yeah, Pop talked about it after. He talked about it immediately after. They talked about it after that, and he's like, I didn't like it. He's like, I didn't think it was the right thing to do. He's like, it's he meant a lot to us and helped us win a championship. But he just didn't think it was right. So
yeah.
And for what his part, I thought Kawhi's answer was like, I don't know, I didn't even really hear it. That's I mean, I don't think anything really bothers him. So yeah.
I'm sure Kawhi's response was very animated.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, he was yelling and screaming. He got super loud about it, and yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we head off to the weekend on that, and we'll hopefully everybody enjoys it. Thank you guys for who joined us live. Make sure that you are a subscriber to the channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications, like this video, and make sure you go follow us over on the podcast side too. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. See ya and stay safe.